Hello, everyone. My name is Archibald Nisaba Adams, and I welcome you today to the Narrativeshift Africa. I am a communications and advocacy specialist based here in Accra, Ghana, with almost 2 decades of experience. I am the founding president of the African Institute for Population and Development, AIPD. I have spent the better part of this 19 years working in the area of communication, advocacy, research, and public policy influencing. And today, I'm excited to be launching something I have been thinking about for a long time, Narrativeshift Africa. This is a bi-monthly podcast presented by AIPD. Our tagline is simple: where the classroom meets the boardroom. So why this podcast? Over the period that I have worked, I have been to several African countries. I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Zambia, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and many other African countries. And one of the key things I have found is that young people who are being trained to become the next public relations, the next communication professionals, always have a gap between what is being taught in the lecture room and what is being practiced. And so between the frameworks, between the theories, between the models, between the lecture notes, and then the reality of sitting in either a newsroom, in the PR unit of a civil society organization, in the communications unit of a government ministry, or a PR agency, there's always a gap between what is being taught and what is actually being practiced. So Narrativeshift Africa podcast is the bridge across this gap. Our mission is clear. We seek to equip young communication and PR practitioners across Africa with the knowledge, with the tools, and mentoring and coaching opportunities they need to practice their craft with confidence, rigor, and then impact. Our vision is an Africa where communication is practiced as a strategic discipline, not an afterthought. We're looking forward to young professionals being mentored and not just being employed, and where the gap between education and industry is closed and not just acknowledged. Our target audience is you. I mean you, and then you listening and watching currently. If you're a communication professional, if you're a PR professional, or you're currently in school studying communications or public relations, or you just graduated trying to find your way and your feet into the industry, we'll be talking to you, and this has been built for you as well. We will publish an episode twice in a month, and then each episode will tackle a specific theme drawn from the real challenges and questions that young professionals face. For some episode, I'll handle it alone, but for some also, I'll bring in experts from the industry, from the academia, from industry leaders to share their thinking and thoughts with you on this episode. We will also run a Narrativeshift Africa Mentorship Circle, which will be a small group session where listeners can come together to discuss, debate, and apply what they have heard. Additionally, we'll also organize virtual mentorship and coaching sections via Zoom or any available platforms, and pair mentees with mentors over a good period of time with scheduled topics and workshops. So this is episode 1, and I want to begin by talking about something that I believe is fundamental to every professional journey, not just in communication, but in any field that demands both craft and character. I want to talk about coaching and mentoring. So let me tell you why I think that starting this episode of the Narrativeshift Africa with coaching and mentoring is very key. Over the period of time where I have worked in the various public, private, and then currently with the academia, I've seen that there's always a difference between what is taught and what is practiced. And usually it is not because of hard work, it is not because of intelligence, it's because someone has not been able to harness the experiences, the lessons, and there would have been instructions of professionals. This is why I want to talk about mentoring and coaching for today's episode. In Ghana and across much of Africa, we hardly talk about mentoring and coaching, especially in the communications and public relations industry. we talk about internship, we talk about attachment, and we talk about others. But coaching professionals such as PR and communication graduates or young personnels will bring about the needed change as I want to talk about. So let's go ahead to explain what is coaching, what is mentoring, and then we'll pick the rest as well. Right, so coaching is a structured, goal-oriented professional development process in which a coach works with an individual to improve the individual's specific skills, behaviors, or performance outcomes within a defined time frame. So coaching is typically short to medium term. It is focused on a specific challenge, transition, or a developmental goal, and not necessarily the entire career of the person being coached. The coach does not need to have done exactly what the coachee is doing. A good coach also asks the right questions, creates accountability, and helps the individual surface their own solutions. So in communication, coaching might look like working with a junior professional to improve their press writing skills, or helping a PR manager developing their personal brand, or preparing a spokesperson for a difficult media interview, or supporting a team leader in building their strategic thinking skills. Think of coaching as a specific targeted intervention. Now let's look at what mentoring is. So mentoring is a longer-term developmental relationship in which a more experienced professional, known as the mentor, shares knowledge, perspective, networks, and guidance with a less experienced professional known as the mentee. So mentoring is relational and not transactional. It is built on trust, mutual respect, and genuine investment in the mentee's growth. And I must say that in mentoring, both the mentee and then the mentor benefit. So the mentor does not dictate, they teach. They draw on their own journey, their mistakes, their hard-won insight to help the mentee navigate their own. In communications and public relations, mentoring might look like a senior communications director regularly checking in with a junior practitioner over maybe a year, 2, 3, or 5 years, helping them read the politics of a media relations situation, managing a crisis communication, opening doors to opportunities, or being an honest voice when the mentee's instinct is wrong. In communications, mentoring might look like a senior communications director directly checking in with a junior practitioner over a year, 2, 3, or 5 years, helping them read the politics of a media relations situation, managing a crisis communication, opening opportunities for the mentee, or being the honest voice when the mentee's instinct is wrong. So think of mentoring as a compass. It does not tell you what to do every step, but it keeps you oriented. Now let's do a quick difference between mentoring and coaching. So in terms of time framing, coaching is short to medium term. In terms of mentoring, it is long term, sometimes from a month to about a year, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. In terms of focus, coaching is specific skill, goal, or challenge, but mentoring is a whole professional journey and growth. In terms of structure, coaching is goes in the formal sections, but mentoring is usually informal, relational, and then more relaxed. And then in terms of the coaching, who leads? The coach drives the agenda. And in terms of mentoring, the mentee drives and then the mentor responds. In terms of the expertise needed, for coaching, you need coaching skills. And then for mentoring, you need deep field experience and wisdom. And in terms of the outcome for the coaching, there's an improvement in a specific area where the need was supposed to address. But in terms of mentoring, there's a broader professional development and then confidence building. So why does every young communication and PR professional need both mentoring and coaching? Coaching without mentoring can make you technically excellent, but professionally isolated. You improve on your writing, you improve on your pitching, you improve on your public speaking, you improve on your thinking skills, but you still do not know how to navigate the politics and the ins and outs of the industry. So you need both. you need both mentoring and then coaching. And for young PR and communication professionals watching and listening, you need to understand that you need both. The question is, how do you assess both mentoring and coaching when you are a young PR or communication practitioner in Accra, Kumasi, Lagos, or Nairobi, where structured mentoring programs in our industry are rare and then not available? And this is where Narrativeshift Africa comes in. Let me bring some research into this conversation, because beyond my work as a communication and PR practitioner, I am also into academia and currently lecturing in communication in one of the private universities, University of Professional Studies here in Accra. Studies across multiple industries and geographies show that professionals who have mentors and coaches are promoted faster, they earn more, they report higher job satisfaction, and are more likely to stay in their chosen field over a long period of time. A 2019 study by the Harvard Business Review found that mentees were 5 times more likely to be promoted than those without mentees. In the African context specifically, research from institutions, including the International Labour Organizations and various national professional bodies, have shown that the primary barrier to career development for young professionals, especially women, is not about qualification, but is the lack of access to network and professional guidance. In other words, the gap is a mentoring gap or a coaching gap. So, looking at both industry and looking at both research, we've seen that the problem is mentoring, the lack of mentoring and coaching. Usually, we have students graduating with very strong theoretical foundations. They understand Groene's 4 models of PR. They can explain all the theories, they can explain all the models, but they cannot confidently write a simple communications plan from the scratch. They cannot pitch a story to a journalist under pressure, or they cannot navigate a crisis without freezing. Their theory is there. The practice to mentor them is what is absent. And that's exactly what Narrativeshift Africa is designed to address. So how does a podcast mentor you? Let me be specific. So every episode of Narrativeshift Africa is designed around a real professional challenge or a question. We bring in experts, we bring in industry players, and we'll bring other experts from the academia to be able to respond to you as well. So you will not only be hearing my voice or seeing my face, we'll also bring in other experts. I also mentioned a bit early on that we will hold mentorship cycles, which will be a group of young professionals or students coming together to discuss the episode, apply its lessons, and then ask questions for further clarifications. And then last but not the least, Narrativeshift Africa will also be organizing virtual mentorship and coaching sessions through Zoom or any available platforms, and pair mentees with mentors over a good period of time to ensure that they can pass on the knowledge, they can ask all the questions as they will want to. So this is how this podcast can become a mentoring and a coaching infrastructure, not replacing the one-to-one relationship between a mentor and then a mentee, but also creating the conditions for that relationship to form by providing the content, the community, and then the conversation that makes mentoring and coaching possible at a large scale. Before I close, I want to say something specific about mentoring and coaching in our African professional context. So in Ghana and across much of Africa, there's a culture of respect for elders and for seniority that can sometimes fight against mentoring and coaching. I'm not saying you don't respect them, but in sometimes you will need to approach these senior professionals who have had some experience and some knowledge over the period of time to be able to harness and glean from them and then to make you a better professional. So mentoring is not luxury. Coaching is not luxury. Sometimes you need a lot of resources to invest in that, and that is where Narrativeshift Africa comes in. So we'll be building the cycles, we'll be building the mentoring programs, as I mentioned, and we'll be relying on you to provide us with feedback. So we are on LinkedIn, X, and then YouTube at Narrativeshift Africa. If you want to join the mentorship circle or you want to be paired with a mentor, please send us an email at aipd.africa@gmail.com or send your name to WhatsApp number +233 5599 00034 +233 5599 00034 or at aipd.africa@gmail.com. And if you're a communication or a PR student or a young professional in Africa who wants to be part of the network, please follow us as well. In our next episode, I'll be tackling a question that sits directly with everyone. How do I become an excellent public speaker? Till then, see you soon.